I recall President Roosevelt and listening to him the day of infamy. I never forgot that. And yes, I used to patrol the streets of Dannemora and make sure everybody had their lights out, and we had committees and all that kind of stuff when we were just youngsters.
He was in paper drives when he was at 14 years old, picking up gum wrappers to provide, right?
Oh, yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, we did everything, and my folks always remembered there was only $3 worth of 3 gallons worth of gas, and we had to make that last so we could do our shopping. And this was rationed, and sugar was rationed, meat was rationed. But every one of them, we followed the rule of the house from my dad. This is something that he said has to be done. And if this is our part, this is what we're going to do because it's our job.
I got a job at the Ford Motor Company. I was working there when Pearl Harbor came. We were out hunting on a Sunday morning, and there were my three friends were still friends, even though they didn't go to the 3 Cs. And on the way back, they turned the radio on. They talked about Pearl Harbor, and everybody looked at me because I was 21. The others were all 20. By December 7th, Pearl Harbor. February 7th, in the service. It only took 2 months to get me in there.
Well, I quit high school and went in the Navy. Broke my father's heart when I quit school, but I think at that time felt it was an honor to fight for your country. We had we had a war that had to be taken care of as far as I'm concerned. I was put into pilot training. That was in the summer of 1942, and I learned how to fly. Then I was made a B-17 pilot, which is a 4-engine bomber. And by August of 1943, I had a brand new airplane, which I named Rangy Lil, and a new crew, and I was out in Grand Island, Nebraska. And I was told to take the airplane over to Marrakesh, North Africa, which was quite a startling thing for a kid that had scarcely been out of Watertown before. Yeah.
And in the summer of '43, we went up in the woods at Tennessee, Camp Forest at Tullahoma, Tennessee, out in the field. And then when we finished that in late fall, the division was transferred to Camp Atterbury in Indianapolis, Indiana, where we had our rifle training. And then in February of 1944, we crossed the ocean from Boston to Liverpool. And I tell people I went overseas by rail. They don't believe me. But I hung on the rail of that ship for about 10 days. I was seasick terribly. I was glad to get my feet on the ground in Liverpool. Yeah.
Never.
And then we started preparing for the invasion in Normandy.
After a little while in North Ireland, they sent us to Southampton, England, and we were there, and we were still just by ourselves. I mean, we had nobody else but our little outfit. And then one day, the general called us out and said, you guys have been selected for a special project. It will be dangerous, and if any of you don't want to go, just step aside. Well, of course, we all went, the whole 43 of us. Anyway, we went in on the 4th, and we had carrier pigeons with us and radio. And the radios back then were not strong enough to reach from Normandy to England. And the radio we had was half the size of this table. We had to assemble it in 3 parts when we got into, after we landed in Normandy. And we, just in case we didn't contact them, we had the carrier pigeons to send the messages to. And there were supposed to be 27 drop zones. And out of the 27, we only received confirmation from 9 of them. So that's why all the troops were dropped all over Normandy when the paratroopers came in. We were the ones that were we were the 43 people that told them that what drop zones there were, and so that when they came in, they would be able to drop them in there. Well, we were dropped off the wrong place myself. Our plane was shot down. I was the last one to get out of it, and I was taken prisoner at St. Lo on the 11th of June, and the Americans didn't take St. Lo till the 19th of July, so that'll tell you how far behind the lines we were, really.
Scary at first, and then I guess after a while that wears off. You forget about it. But of course, another thing is that first part of it, the first day or two, or first 2 or 3 trips, there's a lot of combat going on, and after that, it moves away. So I guess you feel, you're not worried about it. But I don't know. It just, I think you get. You, as they say, like calloused. You get used to that, I guess.
Did you take wounded men back and forth?
Yeah, the first 3 trips we picked them up at the beach. They bring them right up the ramp.
Put them
on those brackets on stretchers. There was, of course, and it would be maybe a German, maybe an English, maybe a French. It wouldn't make any difference. Who was the worst wounded? So they brought this German on. He was an officer, and he had a beautiful uniform. And I was walking by where he was on the stretcher, and somebody said something. And I looked around, and I didn't see anybody. So I started walking. The guy said again something. And I looked, and this fellow was looking right at me. I said, "You talking to me like a dummy?" And he said, "Yes, I'm talking to you." He could speak pure, perfect English. He was an officer. He'd been to college. He was a dentist. That's what he was, a dentist, dental surgeon. And I talked to him for probably 25 or 30 minutes that day.
The foxholes we had were the ones that the Yankee division had dug. And I remember there were dead German soldiers out in front of us. And some of our guys went up and wanted to get souvenirs. And we had been told not to do that because it might be booby trapped. So I didn't go up there. But nobody got blasted from that. But then the next morning, we were to take off and to go move up. And we moved up, and they were shooting us with mortar shells and 88s. You could hear the 88s. You knew they were coming in. With the mortar shells, you couldn't tell. They made no sound. And I always said that I got hit by a mortar we got a blast from a mortar shell. I don't know if it was correct or not. But I got hit in the same shell that got me, got 4 other guys. And after that, I didn't have much control over what I was doing. They got me out of there and sent back to the aid station.
But you were the only one that survived of those group hit, right? And
they moved. I remember when I got to the aid station, they put a cigarette in my mouth because they assumed I smoked, and I told them I didn't smoke, but they insisted on giving me a cigarette.
And then we head out, the 2 of us. We head out for 2 days in Underbrush.
That's where he was wounded.
And I was shot in the arm here. Oh. He was shot in the leg. And, of course, we couldn't move in. And they knew somebody was in there. I'm sure because they kept firing. And the bullets, we were flat on the ground. And sometimes they come to close walking through that I pulled in my knees where they had stepped down. so they didn't step on me. That's how close they were before.
So you're laying in the underbrush with a bullet in the arm, hiding from the Germans for 2 days.
Yeah. And we would have, we had a grenade, a hand grenade, and the other fellow had a carbine, and I don't know how many times we had the pin pulled on the grenade if they're going to kill us without giving us a chance. We had nothing to lose.
Then after they shipped us out, we got about halfway out there, and then they said that ship was going to Naples, Italy.
Okay.
So we got there, and then we stayed there for 3 or 4 days on the ship. And then they put us on anti-craft infantry boats and took us up to Leghorn. And then we got off there. Then we went to a staging area for a couple of weeks and just went on patrols. And then they took off, and we had to kept walking up towards northern Italy, because we didn't know where we were going then. But we'd ride for maybe half a day, and then you get off and walk, and you come back and get these mules and bring them along. And that's where we went all the way up through.
In 5th Army headquarters, and they formed a group. It was called the 5th Army City Command Section. And it was, I think I said 40 men and 26 officers. And our job was to go in, when they captured a city or a town in Italy, we moved in afterward with information as to who could be trusted to be the mayor and the sheriff and the fire department head and everything else.
When I was aboard that LCI, I'll never forget it. I went to London for a 3-day leave, and I overstayed it by 20 hours. So I come back aboard ship. Nobody said a word. Well, 3 weeks later, the executive officer said to me, he says, Granger, want to paint that Bolton blocker? I said, no, I'm an engine room man. I don't do seaman's work. He said, didn't you overstay your leave by 20 hours? I says, what color do you want it, sir?
One of the things that was very nice about us when we boarded the ship, all our immediate supervisors, all our officers were World War I. Some of them, Captain Waddles, World War I, Admiral Holden, World War I, and all these other people were battled off. They were on the Marshals. They fought in the Marshals. They fought and here they're there with us, and we're a team. And they had our whippersnappers down there, and we were proud. We were proud.
I shipped out to the South Pacific on a luxury liner called the Lure Line, USS Lure Line. We stopped off in Australia. I picked up my ship in Australia, and from that minute on, I was in the war. I made 4 or 5 pushes in New Guinea, Biak, Newport, Cape Sanzapor, Mortar, Hollandia. Each one was D-Day. We went up a straight line. The next one was the Philippine Islands. Leyte. D-Day. You know, MacArthur promised he's coming back. He came back 2 weeks later. And I was a gunner on a 20 millimeter. And when I got up to my gun station, all alerts, Japanese planes in vicinity, all I did was point my gun at the sun. And every time I pointed my gun at the sun, I saw smoke coming out and a plane coming down. They dove out of the sun. And their job was to get us on the LSTs, because we traveled with the Marines on D-Day, taking them to the beach. So their idea was and all around us was a task force. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, light destroyers, all around us, and we were in the middle. So I made all of these pushes, New Guinea all the way up to the Philippine Islands, until one day I got a telegram aboard the ship that my brother was killed in Normandy. And that was the end of my career in the Navy, and I'm proud of my service. That's about all I can say.
But the Marines, the Marines are the ones that, of course, I kind of favor them, because at that particular time, the Marines was a sector of the United States Navy.
We dug in for the night, and we had our own foxhole. We each dug our own foxhole, but there was somebody nearby, so one could sleep and the other be awake, you know. But anyway, I can't remember if I slept first or what, but anyway. Yeah, about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it was loud enough to wake us up. I know it woke me up with them hollering. And they were probably using sake, you know, Japanese alcohol, and I think they were pretty well lit when they were hollering all this, and Marine, you die, and boy, I'm telling you, chills through, you know. It was awful dark. Anyway, we could hear them coming towards us in the dark. I think they made up their minds that they lost the battle, and they always had the idea that they died for the Emperor and take as many of us as they could with them. Well, they took a good share of us, and we'll tell you that. I don't know how I ever went through that whole island, one into the other like that. I don't know how I ever made it, but the good Lord must have been with me. That's the only thing I ever thought.
Heavens no. When we heard that the atomic, we didn't even know what atomic meant. When I heard the news, I remember it vividly. When we heard the news that an atomic bomb had been dropped, what's atomic mean? What's an atomic bomb? We had no idea. And gradually the news filtered through that some gigantic bomb had clobbered the Japanese. But we had no inkling of it. I bet you our commanding general didn't know any more about it than I did. They didn't tell anybody about that. So I don't think anybody knew about it except the insiders and President Truman.
Well, actually, you know, one last question. You said that you dropped out of high school because you were called to this. Did you ever get your high school diploma?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How did you end up doing that?
I got it through the service. Yeah, I see a thing in the paper or military or something, and said if you want to get your high school diploma, or write in, and I wrote in and I taught, got literature and stuff, and that's the way I got it.
What year was that? Do you remember? Many years after the service, a few years afterwards, or?
Yes, I was. I think I got this in 2008.
Oh, your high school diploma?
Yep.
In 2008.
You know why I got it?
Why?
Because I broke my father's heart when I quit high school. And I never took the time to go back to school to get it. A lot of the boys did when they got out of the service and went back to school. So my dad's been dead since 74. And I just said to myself, for you, Dad, I'm going to get it. And I got it. And when I got it, I said, there, Dad,